And that was the lesson for me, is that I had to do it myself. I wasn't going to change this guy. I had to just show that I was doing it too, and that I was feeling ashamed and embarrassed about some behaviours of the past. And so it wasn't even a conversation. It was nothing but doing it yourself to give, if you will, the permission for others to also join the journey, as, if you will, the custodian of the process for us on the leadership.
I think if you want to create a organisational culture which is aligned, you need that clarity and explicit set of values, which is kind of from the CEO or the leader, top of the organisation all the way through. But even in an environment where that's not clear, an individual leader can take a stand and say, here is what I stand for, and almost radiate out through their actions, as well as some of their words, the way they behave.
I think that initial founding team, that this first employee number 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, if you look again at the most amazing companies, at the most amazing startups, they all started with an amazing vision of the first 5, 6 or 7 people who were really willing to change the world and willing to die for it, right? And I think, you know, you on one hand gotta find what's exactly your point of difference. Where do you want to be so special? Where do you want to compete? And then I think the second thing is attract absolutely the best people that you can have, and that you really, you know, are willing to push yourselves, hold yourselves mutually accountable. Because if you do that, if a leadership team has very, very high ambitions, automatically then your one below will also share the same ambitions, and one below and one below and one below, right? If you're ready watering it down, then of course you might not achieve as many great things as you can.
And so everybody in the organisation is absolutely clear about where we are heading. The symbols have played a really critical role in that. Never, ever, ever moving away from it, being absolutely clear and consistent, and so repetitive in your communication, you feel like you want to go and bang your head against a wall. Truly, when you think you are so bored with something, I've seen leaders do this before, they feel bored so they change. Do not change. Half your team has still not even heard it for the first time. So the whole communication and clarity and consistency is incredibly important. And then the accountability. You must hold people accountable.
From a performance perspective, we've realised very quickly that one of the number one determinants of attracting the best talent was already having the best talent. And if we carried C-grade players, despite our best efforts to develop, to improve, for too long, we'd lose our A players. They go, I'm sick of doing all the work and carrying these people. So we actually became quite quick around working out, is someone a good fit for us or not? And if they weren't, then encouraging them somewhere else. But with respect to failure, if someone failed having a really good go at an idea, but they delivered, to be congratulated, no issue. If they failed because they were tardy, they didn't manage budgets, they didn't manage communication, that was unacceptable.
We had a spin on the story of the GFC for this management education. You know, here's the compelling case. The GFC exposed the fact that lots of corporations lacked a middle tier of emerging managers who knew what to do when the rule book ran out. You know, leadership can be defined in some ways as what you do when the rule book doesn't tell you what to do. And with that, they go, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me, and we can make a contribution to that. We can teach people how to think differently, to be innovative, to think on their feet effectively, and to innovate in organisations. Very different mindset from teaching them accounting 101, blah, 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 finance, marketing from the basics. So the orientation around that, but capturing the imagination of the people you needed to get on board. And second...
One of the biggest lessons I had was when I took I ran a subsidiary, as I said, at the CBA for a number of years, and I first got into that job. It was very, very busy. The GFC had just hit, and we were just working long hours. And I did a 360, and through the process, my team said, you're not spending enough time with us. And I thought, hang on, we're getting through everything we need to get through on a weekly basis. We're having one-on-ones, but it was more than that. And what they meant, really, when I dug into it with the person who gave me the 360 was they want more of you as the person. They are people. They wanted to build this relationship. That's what they're trying to tell you. They don't just want you to tick a technical box that we've completed our KPIs this week. So I then that was a real aha moment for me, and I fully understood the benefit of just sitting back, listening and talking, and letting them talk to me about their successes and their triumphs and their fears and their failures. And that sort of, that was when I thought I'd started to really understand what leadership was about.
Also, never afraid to let people go when they don't work out. People know when they're not succeeding and not shining at what they're doing. So, and organisations, small organisations grow out of people. So I think being able to say, you were part of our history, you did an incredible job, you got us to here, we actually now need some different skills and it's time for you to develop your career elsewhere. So I think, I think you've got to let people go as you grow if the skills aren't still there.
And so if we look at all of us as leaders, what we really need to do to make the hard difference and to have our people achieve and focus and be motivated and passionate about what they do, we need to tap into those elements. We need to provide meaningful work, a sense of purpose, a sense of making a difference to our teams, and encouraging the hard is about recognizing that difference that people make. And we need to provide those relationships. I think someone said earlier, business is built upon relationships, and people do business with people they like. And, to love and be loved, if you look at the most simple definition of happiness, it's to love and be loved. And so to create that collegiate sense at work where you're in it together and you're firing together and achieving those goals together is just so important. And that's why it makes the hard difference, because it taps into the most fundamental need of all of us. If you win the rat race, you're still a rat. But if you're creating something special and important, it's good.
And I show up in the office, very, very first day in the office, and it goes on for months. But the very first day in the office, I realized that, I could have been a burglar in the room. No one knew who I was. No one said hello. There was no eye contact. No one clearly knew my name. And that just went on for a while. It's an office of 100 people, so it was possible, given all the whining and dining, to get someone recruited to come to work here. You'd think that there'd be some follow-on. And that's when it occurred to me, I was like, this is actually just a charade. The whole thing was just a charade, so you take the job and you feel special, and then you're kind of the bottom drops out. And that's when I thought to myself, I said, if I ever get to a position where someone cares whether or not I know their name, then I'll know their name. And it was easy enough. In the early days, we had 17 staff, but it's getting progressively stressful.